And we are live with our 44th episode of Absolute AppSec. I'm Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on Twitter, joined by my co-host Seth Law. Seth, say hi.
Hey everybody, at Seth Law on Twitter, because Ken dropped it this week for some reason. I don't know. It's almost like his introductions are failing, and the podcast is just dropping off. I don't know, something like that.
I'm ruining this whole damn podcast. It's my fault.
Damn it, Ken. Crap. If I say damn it too many times, I've got to mark it as explicit, so we better be careful.
That's our goal, is to tiptoe that line tonight.
What's the number? What's the number? I need to make notches.
184 F-bombs.
Yeah.
Easy.
183, 184, we can slip it through.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we can't slip it through. So
Apple's, recognition will flag it automatically at some point, right? Welcome back to the podcast. Apparently, this is going to be one of those nights where we just get off topic very quickly because David Coursey is joining us, or Coursey as we all like to refer to him, apparently. Ken and I just got back from AppSec Cali. We took last week off, if you didn't notice, taught our course on secure code review, and sat by the beach. I'm coming to you live this week from a hotel room in a nondescript location. The FBI knows where, but no one else does. That's okay. So it's all part of the AppSec Cali experience, right, Ken?
Yeah, no, living out of a suitcase is definitely part of that experience. But yeah, you were out there for, 6 days?
About
6 days. Yeah, about 6 days. I was there just a couple days more. But yeah, it was a great time. I mean, you attended more talks than I did. What were the notable ones that you went to?
What were the notable ones? You're asking me as you disappeared. I can't remember conference days.
Yeah, no. I had very important business to take care of.
Yeah, let me see. I tweeted out about a bunch of them. If anybody's following my Twitter account, the interesting ones that I really enjoyed. Will and Travis. Speaking about their credential management stuff at Netflix, it was interesting. Also about kind of the SSRF preventions that they have that's now released, right? Their proxy.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch that one.
It was good. It's really interesting how AWS deals with those problems, and that's one of those. That's one of those tools that's going to be useful to people that's not them, right? It doesn't solve SSRF completely, but it does solve the ability to pull the local AWS credentials through an SSRF vulnerability. Pretty clever way to handle it, right? That in conjunction with like the NetSec tool that the Segment guys released, between those two, I think you got a pretty good handle on what's going on with SSRF, as long as you realize that that's a vulnerability. The keynotes were really good, right? Brian Payne and from Netflix as well. It seemed like it was Netflix Conference 101, right? With all the Netflix guys speaking and Asta and everybody.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of Silicon. For those of you who've never been, it's a lot of Silicon Valley sort of style companies. Or yeah, I guess that'd be the best way to describe it. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Netflix segment. GitHub, we had one talk, but Neil had to drop out, unfortunately. I
mean, Leaf talking about building relationships with developers. As a consultant, that relationship is a little bit different than I know for the embedded teams, right? But it's still an interesting thought process for me to go through and say, all right, how do I actually build kind of this trust relationship with a team when I'm only interacting with them under certain conditions or for a short amount of time? I know, Dave, you at AllState, you're probably dealing more with hey, I need to build an extended relationship so they trust me. But as a consultant, it's a fine line to walk, right?
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point, because as a consultant, you build up that muscle memory of as quickly as possible trying to build rapport with developers. Like you have a stable, like a list of phrases that you can use to let them know that you know what you're talking about, and you're there to help, and you're not just some random security jerk. So I think that did help.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. When you move back and forth between those worlds. Yeah. Let me see. What else did I attend? The segment guys. Oh, the Zap heads-up display. Have either of you seen that yet?
That was David Scribonia's talk.
Yeah, he was on earlier. We didn't talk a lot about it on the podcast, but we're going to have him back on to talk about it, because I was like, hot damn, if that was with Burp, I'd be all over that, right? Like, I probably even will try. I'll use Zap a little bit more, because it overlays control of the proxy on top of the site that you're viewing, right? So you can actually, flag specific fields and have them kick off, like I think in Zap it's called the fuzzer or whatever. So typical to the scan, or similar to Burp Scanner, right, or Burp Intruder. But you can actually kick off the fuzzer from within the view in your browser. So they're overlaying JavaScript, or they're injecting JavaScript on top of the iframe that is running that you're viewing the current application in, and then giving you all sorts of information. So it's a true heads-up display. You don't have to flip back and forth between the app and the application, or Zap and the application. You can actually see it all there locally. I was pretty excited about that. So kudos to Dave and his team for actually putting that together, right?
That's the kind of stuff that's going to pull users away from Burp.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, because I was like, dang, like just the usability factor in that, not having to flip back and forth or decide, all right, where is this actually at? Or if I'm manipulating a request, I don't have to do inspect element, or I don't have to catch the request. I can just do it very easily within that display.
I do want to touch on this real quick though, because you brought this up, and like I feel like this is let's not shy away. Like the whole Burp Suite having issues thing, because I don't know if anyone's actually talking about this. Like I know you were on the fence there, David. I could sense it coming, and I wanted to just let you loose and just.
That's because we talk about it ad nauseum, and I just assume that everybody has heard us talk about it until they get sick too. I mean, as a professional pen tester, Burp is our moneymaker, right? And they've been putting so much development work into stuff for people that are not us, right?
Yeah.
The Burp Enterprise stuff is great for my AppSec team that's going to put that into their CI pipeline. But I've never been the type of pen tester that really relied on Burp Scanner, right? Like I'll do individual fields and things like that, but I don't just point it at an app and let it go. So why would I do that in the CI pipeline?
I always feel like that's like the scanner. It was more of like you felt lucky if it caught something, but it was never something you relied 100% on at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And Zap had such a bad name for a long time that Burp didn't have to do anything. And you look at their like 25-year-old Java interface, and it just doesn't cut it anymore.
No.
They need to shift to Electron.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you laugh about that, but the injected like JavaScript over the top. I mean, at the very least, it gets me out of the damn Java, crappy Java app. Burp, that's always been the complaint. I mean, if we start way back in the day with WebScarab, it was always a crappy Java app. And I understand the, build once, run anywhere philosophy. It's just a jar. It's easy enough to spin up and you can kind of skin it, but it still just looks like a crappy 20-year-old Java app.
And it's I love Burp, but it's so damn clunky. And like you're talking about with the heads up display in Zap, you want to do some of those settings in Burp, and you're like, oh man, where is this? Which one of the 9 configuration tabs is this in? Yeah. And just it's not pretty. It gets the job done, and it gets the job done well, but it just feels like it hasn't been updated since like Cisco made their GUIs.
Yeah, it feels like that's what they're competing with, and I think about when it came of age, and that's what shows, right? Because it was WebScarab from OWASP. There was no Zap at the time. There was Burp Suite. There was Fiddler. The UI on Fiddler is awful as well, right?
Yeah.
Played with that. Peros Proxy, right? I think that was the other one at the time. And any of them was like, we'll use it. And then the scanner and the intruder functionality is what drew people to Burp, and the extensibility, right? the plugin structure. Yeah. So as long as Zap or somebody else can actually come into that space, I know on the Slack channels that we talk about that it's a constant thing. And yeah.
I mean, and it's definitely something that I live with it every day. And so I know the ins and outs, and I don't see myself switching off of it to Zap anytime soon. But features like that, for example, I was testing a single page application 2 weeks ago or something like that. And, sometimes you go to like inspect element and it won't show you the source for the thing you're actually looking at when you try to view the source. And it's just gone. Like it's, JavaScript is rendering it, and apparently it's just in the ether somewhere. So I wonder if with the Zap heads up display, you'll be able to have more finely tuned control on what you're seeing there.
Yeah, you mean when there's like an event that triggers in the browser and changes the DOM, or sorry,
yeah.
Did I cut in on? Didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. Yeah, that's exactly what he's saying. Is the rendered page is not always the source. So if you're inspecting the element of the stored source, that may not necessarily reflect what you see on your screen.
Yeah.
And that was the whole idea. That's the functionality that I want to exercise, and then I'm excited to actually see someone pushing that edge. And like I said, we'll bring Dave back on. I talked to him about it after, and I had some suggestions about, if you add some of this functionality to that heads-up display, I'm going to be hard-pressed to stick with Burp, right? Because it will actually improve my life and improve my pipeline. I don't have to right-click and send it here, and then I send it to the wrong place. Stuff like that, like the little shortcut things like that. If I hit the wrong one, and it works, but the whole workflow could be improved.
The interesting thing is that most often you hear folks say, like, the cost is sort of an agreement that we're going to be okay with there being some clunkiness and some bugs, and just don't charge. I don't know what number counts as like being to where we're no longer cool with just random bugs and stuff like that. Like if it's, is it 10,000 or 50,000? I
agree with that, but look at the size of Portswigger now. Like, look at the number of developers. Look at the effort that they've put into the enterprise version, and granted, there's software that has more users, but if anything, like over the years, we've been pushing more and more people to use Burp, and that a lot of that stuff hasn't changed, right? Stability's gone up a little bit, at least in the 1.x branch, right?
Yeah. And I don't mind the temporary bugs so much. Like, I always update to the latest version every time I get prompted. And so I understand there's going to be problems with that, and I just deal with it. And I've never had anything that's a deal breaker. There's just been minor annoyances that I adjust my life around. We used to have a lot of problems with the project files. And you just knew that like once an hour you needed to back up your project. And we haven't had that in a long time, but
it's interesting that we were talking about the scanner part of that, because you had said something, you had said minor bugs, but there are some not so minor bugs where the scanner just there weren't findings, and they knew about it later, and we're like, look, if it was, it wasn't catching, we'll say XSS or whatever. Right. So like in that case, I guess, you definitely can't rely on the scanner at all.
I think that was for the 2.0 version. I think that was pretty early on, and like a week after they made that announcement, and everybody ran around in typical infosec Twitter style.
But that happened before 2x. I mean, this happened in this is how the tool's been around. I mean, I've been working with the tool since 2009, we'll say, and this has been pretty consistent. There's been something like that throughout the years.
Okay. That's fair.
So, well, no, it's like one of those things where good example of why you can't trust the scanner. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that mindset that if I don't have to pay a ton of money for an app, then I'm not expecting much?
No, I mean, for the functionality that I'm using, right, it's got to do its job.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a different style of tiered model that we're more used to seeing on other applications would make more sense. Most people use 20% of Burp's functionality, and then if you want the full intruder instead of the timed one, then the price is a little bit more. If you want, I don't know, the sequencer for doing crypto stuff, you add another module. Take the IDA Pro approach, except don't charge as much as IDA Pro.
Everybody complains about IDA Pro. I don't even know what the license costs for IDA Pro.
I just looked at it. All I want is x86 and ARM, and I think ARM64, x64. We got up to like $15,000 real quick.
So is this not? I would assume this is not going to be a novice level tool then at this point.
IDA? Or
yeah, no IDA. I haven't had like a lot of experience with IDA. So
IDA does the free version that's usually like one or two versions behind the current. So I don't remember what the exact number is right now, but you can get IDA free, and it's, I don't think it has ARM support, and my main focus is mobile, so I have to have ARM.
Which we should probably get into and introduce him at some point properly.
Well, wait. Okay, so let's wrap up AppSec Cali. Like we went down the burp path pretty quick because that was a Z attack proxy was interesting. Talk to me. I don't know. Manico, who we've had on the podcast, Jim Manico gave a really good keynote kind of about the history of AppSec and how we've actually come a long way in the last 20 years, but we still got a long way to go. It was a great conference, right? I feel like everywhere I turn, there's people that wanted to talk. Everybody's very engaged in application security. It's not a red teamers conference, right? It's not people that are doing low level or like social engineering. It's very much an application security conference, and I'll go back. There's no doubt I'll be back, right?
And I'll go to more talks this time.
Sure you will. Hey, where's Ken at? Oh, I don't know. We haven't seen him yet today.
I was there the whole afternoon on Thursday. For the record, I was there the whole afternoon. And I mean, like a big part of that is going in to see your friends, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, the whole GitHub team was there, right? Or a lot of you.
Yeah, a lot of us. I think we had a few people from product security not there, but besides that, yeah, pretty much the whole AppSec, ProdSec side.
Yeah, and the same thing, like the teams from Netflix and Segment and a lot of Silicon Valley companies was there. It was very cool. So, except Coursey wasn't there, and I don't understand what happened with that.
You know how it is, man. Corporate overlords just want to hold you down. I can't complain though. I feel like I said this on the last time, but they sent me to Belfast for B-Sides Belfast, and then I went to DerbyCon this year, and then I went to B-Sides Charleston and B-Sides Augusta, and after that, I need a break.
Now, there's some rough locations in Ireland. Were you okay? Did you survive that all right?
It's like being in a movie everywhere you go.
I bet it's beautiful. I've never been. I mean, I've been to Ireland, like Dublin, but not actually gone and toured.
I'm not a big traveler. Like if I have to go somewhere, I'll just go. And I submitted for B-Sides Belfast and told my wife if I get accepted, then I'll see if work would pay for it. And they did. Everything came through, and I was like, okay, I guess we're going to Ireland.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so we went like a week early and just toured and stayed in like these old buildings and saw.
So you brought your wife.
Yeah, brought the wife.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing you did that too, because it's always funny. I don't know how your wife's reaction was, but usually I'm just in this room doing whatever computer stuff I do. But then when we go and travel internationally to do a talk or whatever, and then she's inevitably surprised that all of like 20 people are actually listening. to anything I would have to say. It's sort of like this, like it's a nice to be like, hey, see, sitting in a room all day long, it actually can lead to some fun adventures. So.
Yep.
So, yeah. Was she impressed?
Yeah, she liked it. You know, I mean, the touring was fun, and then she went to the conference and watched me talk. She didn't see anything else, you know, and then we just hung out and talked to people. We actually have a big office over in Belfast as well, so I got to meet a lot of those guys.
Very cool.
Nice. What did your wife say, Seth? When you went to go speak, she was like, didn't she say something like, why would they want to listen? Or
yeah, why do they want to listen to you? Like I get no respect at home, right?
You're like, I'm already saying that shit to myself. I don't need you adding to it.
No. At DEF CON, it was just like, oh, they're probably here for the talk after you, right? That's the one that I got at DEF CON. I was like, ow, damn.
My neurosis is bad enough. I don't need you to add to my crippling anxiety. Yeah,
well, that's awesome. The last time I submit. Gosh, take you places.
I know.
Yeah. My wife can usually only handle about like my talk, and she doesn't like going to conferences where I have to talk, where I know people, because I tend to we tend to chat and we're stopping in the hallways, and she's like, for the love, I just want something to eat, right?
Yeah,
that's what she's thinking. I'm pretty sure that was the look on Ken's wife's face at AppSec Cali. She was sitting there on her phone while
she was candy crushing.
She was candy crushing. Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
My wife has wanted to go with me to DerbyCon for the last couple of years, and I'm like, okay, I mean, you can go, but I know you don't want to go to the conference, so you're going to be in Louisville on your own for 3 days. Like, you sure about this?
Big destination, Louisville. Big tourist destination. Top 10 vacation areas.
Yeah. I'm hoping for Infiltrate this year, and that's in Miami. So she wants to go to Miami now.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's that way for any significant other that has to go to any tech conference. It could be, developer conference. It could be whatever it is. If you're not in, and then it would be the same as if like you were not. I mean, what if we went to like a dentist convention, right? Like there's nothing we would get from that. So it's got to be.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like some of the stuff that she would want to go see, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to sit by the pool while you go do your thing, right? Like I totally get it.
Right. Try explaining that. Be like, well, this doctor here, he's spoken at like 7 of these dental conferences, or she's a big time anesthesiologist in the dental world,
Yeah, super impressed, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
written over 40 blogs on it, so legit.
Even been interviewed.
Do you think other industries have the rock star problem? Like, do you have dental rock stars?
I hope so, and if so, I want to meet them.
Or do you get like he came up. Oh my God, dental Twitter is so much drama today.
All this dental drama for the week.
Man, I just can't even. I have to log out of Twitter. All the dental drama.
I'm just done with it. Yeah. Oh,
I'm pretty sure there should be some teeth memes that come out of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I don't think that there's probably. I'm sure in tech in general, there's always that. But what other industry besides? I mean, do lawyers have that? I have no idea. I guess that's an interesting more question than we've got answers for.
I don't know. My dad used to go to lawyer conferences, and it just sounded like the most boring thing ever to me. The only thing I got out of it was he came back and he had when I lived down in Charleston, he was actually in Columbia, and so it was like an hour drive. He flies out to Columbia for this conference, and then goes home, and then tells me I was in Columbia last week. Like, I haven't seen you in 3 years. You could have called.
Doing legal stuff.
Yeah.
Law stuff. super legit. Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it would be interesting to actually see if it is, but it's definitely one of the quirks of the industry for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so I'll get onto the AppSec minute here. It'll be like literally just a minute because and then I'm gonna properly introduce Coursey. Does that sound good, Seth?
Yep. Let's do it.
Sweet. So the question was, hi Ken, I was wondering if you could help me with your experience in managing bug bounty programs. And by the way, Coursey, we talked about it. Well, see, I'm calling you Coursey. I'm not even calling you David. Mm-hmm. David, feel free to chime in on this one. But yeah, so the question was, could you help me with your experience in managing a bug bounty program? At my work, we are trying to evaluate the amount of time to put in terms of managing communication with researchers. In your experience, do you have a dedicated team to exchange with HackerOne and the researchers, or is it a 20% job? Okay, so basically, this comes down to what's it like time-wise? How do you divvy up that response, et cetera, et cetera? So ours is a public bounty, although we do have like a private bounty for some features. But yeah, it's a public bounty program. We experimented with it, but found that it wasn't for us, which was having HackerOne do some triaging and do some initial responses for things that are probably not a vulnerability. But it didn't end up working for us for a couple of reasons. I mean, I think one of the big ones was we like to have a personal touch, and this goes to this question, which is, how to engage researchers and how do you engage researchers? So I guess what I would say is that we've got Monday through Friday, each day broken up. So between typical 9 to 5, whatever bug submissions come in, that is, that's your rotation day. That's you're going to be the person responding, unless it's something that's like a feature you reviewed or something you're familiar with, whatever it may be. That's what 5 people. So then the other piece is how many hours, and I would say sometimes you get 4 submissions that are very easy to close, but yeah, some days it could be a good chunk of your day devoted to whatever. Sometimes you get submissions that are on the line and you're not really sure, and then you have to go do a bunch of digging to find out that it was like a known issue or something like that. And those are the days that eat in, and you could spend up to like 4 or 5 hours on that day. But most of the time it's not a huge burden. We're talking maybe a couple hours on your duty days typically. So anyways, that's sort of my experience. But Coursey, I know you were saying before,
when you guys release a new product or a new target into the bounty zone, right? What would that graph look like of how many reports you get on day 1 versus day 60?
Somebody just wrote up a synopsis on that actually, and because we did have a private bounty for a new thing coming out, and which is a pretty big feature. So anyways,
you say you're going to drop what it is?
No, actually it might already be public, but it's when I say big, I don't mean like a big, like, oh, it's life changing. I just mean it's a big in the sense that it's, a
impact
code. Yeah. Code to review.
We know what big means.
Oh, you're familiar. Just like my breakdown of how it would be 5 people in a week if each person had a day. Yeah, hard to follow, right? That's why I got quiet. I was like, why am I explaining basic math to adults? Anyways, so yeah, no, in that case, it was, I would say probably most of the volumes came in over the month, the first, but I think that they still trickled in up until the close of the thing. So,
but I'm sure it would be front loaded though, right? Like the way that the researchers typically jump onto something.
Because there's that whole
heavy.
It's like the gold rush.
Yeah, because like if you get a duplicate, you may not get. I don't know how it works. I forget, but there's because within a certain time, I think within a certain time frame, we do certain things for duplicates. But anyways, you could get a duplicate and not get paid out, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know, like from a researcher perspective, like I remember when Leaf, I can't remember if he mentioned it when he was on, how Segment handles researchers, right? That they're more about building the relationship up, and that's probably what needs to be like at least some sort of a focus. Is you foster the relationship with those. So even if it's a duplicate, if it they've obviously spent time and it's better written than something that's already come in, they have a tendency to actually pay out on those, even if it's just a couple $100, just to keep the researcher on the hook as far as, hey, you want to work with us because even though this is a duplicate and we already knew about it, we want you in our program, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we do something similar. For sure.
We're standing up several private bounties, and I was like the only person in the organization with any bug bounty experience. And so I got put sort of unofficially in charge of it, and I'm going to be doing all the triage to start with. And I was trying to explain to them that, in this relationship, it makes a lot more sense just to throw that $250 away for something that's questionable than it does to fight over it, and then people go public with the whatever it is, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it, right? Like they, again, they go onto Twitter, they cause drama for the brand, for the program, but it also signals other researchers that, hey, even when you do go public, maybe they don't want to participate because you guys are, dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and making sure that you don't pay out at all. Which, is what it is, right?
So. I want to know what's going to happen with this 14-year-old kid and the Apple bug.
Was it a 14-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Right?
Yeah.
You have a link for that, Ken, that you can post?
I'm Googling it right now as I'm,
Okay.
So, tried to warn Apple about the group FaceTime bug.
I saw that it was not something it was part of their normal bounties, but it still should be. They should throw something at him.
Yeah. Send him a new MacBook or something. Yeah.
An iPhone.
That's like worth what, $7,000-8,000 or $1 million, something like that. All right, let me put it in here. On the link or a link.
Cool. Oh yeah.
I mean, what would you award something like that? Like, I
mean,
20, 50.
I mean, Apple has more money than most governments, so they could throw 50 grand at the kid and it wouldn't even be a line item on their budget.
Yeah. And this definitely, if you,
and it's huge.
Like
yeah.
I wonder if they
faxed the company. They faxed the company. Surprised no one picked up the fax.
This piece of paper slides out of this machine, and people are like, "What is that?" I didn't know it could do that.
It was just brought in for like hipster like irony or something,
Yeah.
This is hilarious. Disabled the group time FaceTime feature.
I wonder if they have any way, because they shut down the FaceTime group capability. So I wonder if they had any log or any way to triage to see if this was being exploited. I don't know what kind of stuff goes on the back end of iPhone networks.
It's all very secure. No problems whatsoever.
Like obviously. that tweet that had the Apple's whatever it said, something about your message stays private or something on their iPhone, which was on the side of a Marriott building.
Oh yeah, Ken, I was going to ask you if you're in a Marriott, because you were saying only the FBI knows where you are, and there might be some other agencies not in this country.
No. I can neither confirm nor deny the whereabouts of my physical location. No, it's not a Marriott.
You're on the run from the law. Got it.
Yeah.
Something like that. Cool. All right. So we've covered some stuff.
So yeah, I should probably introduce David Coursey now that we're 38 minutes into the episode. All right. Well, David's been on the podcast before for what it's worth, but when you were on the podcast, it was, you were basically it was you and Stefan both times, and this time we wanted to dedicate a special episode to getting to know David Coursey. So yeah, David Coursey. Okay, so you'll talk more about your history, but Seth and I met David at Invisium, and yeah, like you're definitely one of my top favorite people. How about that?
Yeah.
Great person to work with. Always some interesting ideas.
We had a good
You
time.
were the only other person.
Game.
What's that?
Strong meme game.
Super strong. And at the time, you were like, I think it was you and Ryan were the only other two people looking at Golang when we worked there, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed working with you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Seth hasn't chimed in, so you can just expect that Seth's saying, no, I didn't enjoy working with him at all.
Screw you guys, I'm going on mute. No, just kidding.
We talk way more now than we did when we worked together.
Yeah.
Super true.
Yeah, I realize that.
Yeah.
It seems like there's quite a few people that just seems like we were running in kind of different circles at the time, working on different efforts. And
let's be honest, we had no time in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the consulting lifestyle, man. Like, trying to be in a leadership position on an internal team now, and I have to kind of rein in my mental idea of what a pen test team is supposed to operate like, because we don't have that urgency where we absolutely have to get this test done, get the report done, and out to the customer. If it takes a little extra time, then I just can go back to the dev team and say, sorry, we think this is really important, deal with it.
Yeah,
I like it.
That's a luxury to have for sure, right? Still being on the consulting side, typically those deadlines for me are, this is a drop dead deadline, and I even pad that when I'm creating it, right? Just so I can have little extra time if I need it.
Yeah.
But even then, there's always that, I got to get this one done so I can move on to the next one, because that's where that's the money, that's where where everything stems from.
Because Monday morning another one is starting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And if you're not done, you're behind the 8 ball for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
So
what are your main? Yeah, no, I was probably gonna ask the same thing, like just about his main responsibilities at AllState.
Yeah. So when I was on here last time, I didn't say it because I was kind of in the transition or something like that. But I'm the pen test lead at AllState now, and so they kind of separate things a little bit differently. We have a red team, we have a pen test team, we have an AppSec team. So I'm on the team that does only dynamic testing for networks, websites, mobile apps. So no static code analysis, although I'm kind of trying to include some of that back in. And then a lot of leadership stuff. So I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but they needed some love. The team needed to be modernized and just kind of a little bit more formalized. So actually putting policies on paper, the only like policy document we had as far as our procedure was like 8 years old. And so I would have calls, for the first several months, have calls with customers, and they're like, what do you guys actually do?
That's never a good thing.
We have this requirement that says I have to get a pen test. What does that mean? And so like, and it's a gigantic organization. So from my little company consulting mindset, I'm like, okay, let's just stand up a little website, put some docs up there. Like this other team has this amazing documentation site, and it's on our internal Git. So I'm just gonna fork that and host it somewhere. And like 3 months later, I still have not even got approval to do this. Right? But
is 3 months pretty typical of like approval timelines? And
I mean, it could be anything. Like things, a lot of stuff is automated. They're actually very mature in their network engineering and the AD automation and stuff like that. And so if I need a user added to a group, I can submit a ticket. It's all automated and it's done. But anything that might cost our team money, like hosting a static documentation site on our own servers, it's going to cost my team $2,000 a year.
Jeez,
And,
why can't you just throw it up on a pages, like make a pages repo?
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at. Stuff like that. Trying to herd the cats, get people to, like I like Git, so I want all of our stuff to be on Git, but other people like Confluence, and some people like SharePoint.
SharePoint.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff like that. We just did our big 2019 planning meeting. And as you might imagine, we've got several apps and a couple networks. And so we're just like trying to get a grasp, because in the year of our Lord 2019, nobody had a good application inventory. Right. And the three of us have talked about this like once a week for the past year. No application inventory. And so I'm like emailing people, can you please send me a list of all PCI applications?
Oh man.
Yeah.
What if they faxed you this information? Think about it.
You're just asking for it in the wrong form, right?
Exactly. I just send them my eFax number.
Yeah. No, app inventory. So how is that going then? Are you actually, traction there? Or?
Yeah, you just have to treat people like a bill collector. Just email them, hey man, I'm sure you just missed this. This is the 7th time.
I'm sure you're not ignoring this at all.
Because you're horrified at the prospects of coming up with a list.
Yeah. I love trying to always come up with like the 7th email. Like how do you by that point, how do you reword it to not sound like basically like, oh, for the 7th time now. That's the case.
Just a reminder. And we have many government regulations we have to follow. So application wise, we just have the normal ones, PCI, HIPAA. SOX doesn't really have a pen test requirement, but then we have like critical apps and external facing apps, and we have all these categories of things that we have to pen test. And no one had ever done this before. Put it into one, not even a pane of glass, just a list. So getting that together, and we did it, and trying to okay, well, we have this many apps, and if we count each one as 1 week, which doesn't always work out, we're already stacked up to October. And so planning stuff like that, this is the first time I've ever had to do planning like this. And, so we make this big spreadsheet, and an app last year got missed, right? And then we find out that the wrong URL was used the year prior to that. And so the last quality pen test on this thing was a couple years ago. And so it's PCI season. So the audit team comes back and they're asking questions. And, just through sending things around through the leadership chain, they now have my spreadsheet.
Which is
now
they're
the source of authority.
Yeah, it is.
And they're like,
well,
how come this says that this is not completed? I'm like, because I made that shit last week, man. What do you want?
You're using my list against me. At least I have a list. That was my list item number 1. Make a list. So the biggest item there is done. They used your list against you. That's messed up, man.
Yeah. The good thing is, though, you hear nightmares, and everything comes down to relationships, but you definitely hear nightmares. But we have a lot of leadership support. My boss is amazing. Pretty much all of the leadership that I've met so far are really on board to make things better. Like they are, for better or worse, really buying into this whole cyber thing. And so
yeah, well, it's
cyber thing.
Yeah.
The phrase, I get the sentiment. The phrasing's funny, but the sentiment.
Yeah.
But it's got to be interesting for you because it's got to be interesting for anyone because you can't. Because we were talking about this with trying to, trying to de-scope apps so that you can, just like various things you can do to basically reduce your workload of review. So one of those things was like de-scoping. And by the way, I'm just having to reiterate this for those that like aren't on the Slack channel or whatever. So the recap of that discussion was talking about code reviews and talking about all the apps that you have to assess, and then how you figure out, like, do I deprioritize these apps? Can I like go to the architects and actually have them take out whatever thing is making this in PCI and maybe wipe some apps off the compliance checklist. But with the difficulty in just the logistics that you've had, I mean, that seems like a task that would have to be distributed. You couldn't do yourself at all.
So in my experience so far, those ones aren't even the complicated situations. Those ones are a little more black and white, right? Can this app be modified to make it not PCI? Someone knows. We don't know who knows yet, but somebody can do some work and figure that out. Or we can, cross things off the list that are like internal only, and you have to be on this specific system to get it, And so we did cross hundreds of apps off the list. But the ones that are hard are the ones that are like, this is absolutely enterprise critical, PCI, and in constant development. So do we pen test it every release?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
And in those cases for compliance, I'm pretty sure you just need something to sit there and scan it, right? And like somebody just get the results of it, which is.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm trying to work on now is, what are our criteria to say what gets a pen test besides just the government regulations and external facing, right? Like because we do have lots of people who want to do good and want to get a pen test, and so they submit a request, and we're already under this mountain of regulation stuff. And we're like, well, we just can't get to you in 2019. It's not even February. Right. And then, and then we have subsidiaries, and the subsidiaries roll up to our regulation compliance. So
I mean, if you put these in scope for like bounty programs, and then, or some of these apps in scope for that, vendor out to a contractor out some of those assessments, I mean, de-scoping some apps, I guess those are all things you could do. But at the end of the day, I mean, seems like, there's still a lot of, if you're in February saying I've got no room for you in 2019, it just seems like it's an insurmountable task is almost what it sounds like.
We're making another move, like, giant organization. So obviously some apps are 73 years old, and some their first release isn't out yet. They're still in dev. And so some of the teams move much faster and don't want to wait 3 weeks for a pen test. And so one of the things we're doing is coming up with a list of approved pen test vendors so that I can say, okay, you're doing an application, here's 5 vendors you can select from. Make your pick, and then I'll manage the contract, and I'll get the report, or at least I'll view the report to make sure it's a quality pen test. Because we had some contractors last year, one of the big 4 fancy audit firms, and you get the report and you're like, oh, it's pointless. This is trash. We just dropped $200,000 so I could get some fire starter.
I mean, that's the weirdest thing, is that the quality of these bigger firms, it's not, I mean, the reality is like, I don't know what you're paying for when you pay all that, and it is usually more expensive, and there's a longer process, and there's more to do between both sides from a procurement standpoint.
I think I'm
not sure what the benefit is.
It's the same sentiment as nobody ever got fired for choosing IBM, right?
Right.
You can go up to any one of the board members and be like, yes, PwC did this work, or EY did this work, or whoever, and they're like, oh, okay, that's great. And then it gets down to the report, and we technical people are just like, Jesus Christ, like,
I see
what is going on. Yeah.
But shouldn't it be on us to explain that those are not good firms?
It is, and then it just comes back. It just takes time. Right?
Sorry, and I don't want to be very clear that I'm not saying that those are not good firms, those specific ones you named. What I'm saying is, if there are ones that we know do questionable work, then
Yes.
That's the
And
case.
you know, like, we all worked together at Invisium, and we tried really hard to make sure that every report that went out the door was quality. We did 3 to 4 rounds of peer reviews, and you had another
arguably
person,
too much peer review. But yeah.
maybe, but it was quality work, you know. And you had people like Stefan and John Callahan, like, troubleshooting your app, be like, "Did you check this? What does this mean right here?" You know, and Tim saying that risk impact is not specific enough. Do something.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm used to seeing now, you know. And going forward, that kind of work product is what I'm going to demand from contractors. Like, if we're going to pay you $200,000 for 10 pen tests or whatever the number is, like, you can write a damn PDF that looks good.
Yeah, that's, and you know, like, it's not necessarily just even talking about, you know, spelling and stuff. It's like, yeah, why is this even a thing?
Why is
this included? Yeah, exactly. But you missed the things that I care about the most. You know?
I had 3 calls yesterday and today with dev teams who got pen tests from contractors last year, and they're not able to fix the behavior in this application. And I'll give you an example. Something that we stopped reporting at Invisium was the autocomplete password field in the browser, because browsers don't let the application control that anymore, right? And so there's nothing you can do. And this contractor is still reporting it. And so now the dev teams are coming back to me and trying to figure out how they get this off of their, you know, big red dashboard.
Oh yeah, I had a similar situation back in consulting days, actually at the same company as Seth at Fishnet Security, and I won't talk about who it was, but it was it was actually another consultant within the same company, and I remember getting it was kind of a big deal. This company came back, and they're a financial institution, so similar to, you know, AllState. They're just like heavily influenced by regulation. And so what that means is when you go to write those reports, they have to be, especially if they're coming from the same consulting company, they've got to be like fairly uniform, right? There shouldn't be new stuff. So what had happened was the other consultant was reporting on, like, there's this cookie that had no value whatsoever. It was probably like a tracking cookie. Yeah, so something of no value whatsoever, and they were like, lack of HTTP only flag on it.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
For an analytics. Yeah. Yeah. For an analytics cookie. So so
the hacker can get like Q equals 479.
Yeah. Crack the code. Yeah. But that threw them into a absolute, like, this isn't okay, and like, don't you guys have the same standard checks and all that stuff, which is a whole other topic, right? Standard checks. But yeah, I can see that happening. If it happened within the same consulting company, I can assume that definitely occurs between other consultancies.
Yeah, I like, you talk about reports, you talk about PDFs. Like, as a consultant, I don't know. I think this came up in the code review course, Ken, as we were giving it this last time, is like me saying, as a contractor, I actually hate PDFs, right? I like, just because of the inflexibility that's there. And yet, like, even in Invisium, right, and other places, it's always been, hey, I realize that this is the work product that I have to turn out. Like, I don't have access to your Jira queue. You're probably not going to give that to me as a short-termer, right, as a short-term contractor, and that's fine. But if I can't give you something in a format that you can understand and that actually helps you, then I feel like I'm wasting my own time, not just your money, right? It just is not a good situation to be in. But I've seen so many reports that have been handed to me from clients, from Big Four accounting firms, or even other pen test firms, that I'm like, I don't understand how this made it out the door, right?
Yeah.
So stuff like the autocomplete, stuff that's really old, it's almost like, hey, we just scanned it with some random scanner, dumped the results, and that's the report that you're getting, and then we're going to charge you $20,000 for that. And I just, like, it's why we get a bad rap, right? It's why pen testing gets such a bad rap, and why security in general, from a developer's perspective, is just like, crap, here's another pen test, and it's not going to help me. And all it is going to make more work, and I'm going to have to track down something that doesn't really affect the security of this application.
Do they have a
fix for it? But what?
Well, see, that's why when we were talking about Pwnhead, I don't know if it was I think it was 2 weeks ago, talking about Pwnhead, that was basically like the one redeemable part that I thought was interesting about it was having people do like an Angie's list for security consultants, security consultancies, the vendors.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it would be interesting. I don't know. It'd almost be interesting to just pull a sample report from each of the different consulting firms, because I know they hand them out to clients and just be like, hey, I need to see just an average level of quality of what comes out of your consultancy. I don't care if you redact all the images. I don't care if you redact all the source code, but show me what your impact statements look like.
I mean, we made an example one for a fake company with fake findings, and it's not that difficult. And you only need to make it once. It's just the follow-up that gets tough, right? Like, because then 3 years ago, the dude who made that report has long since moved on, and you got this junior person who all they can do is run the burp scanner.
Yeah,
they're getting paid $40K.
Well, and that's like when you talk about the big four, that's their model, right? Is, hey, we've got a couple of really sharp consultants that kind of create the practice, and then we're going to attempt to pull in a whole bunch of junior people straight out of college, give them a playbook, and let them run, and we bill them. And that, I mean, that's the dream of any consultancy is, hey, we bill somebody out at 4 times what we pay them.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a good reason why, like, David Coursey is a prime example of switching between consultancies and Blue Team and getting bringing in what you had just done to the other job. Is he can sniff out, anyone who's done consulting can sniff out some of the those things, right? To look for an example report, to ask, the questions to ask, to probably you can haggle with rate if you want to. But I'd imagine it doesn't matter at AllState.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all kinds of things you to do.
And now that I'm, running with the team and we're starting to get good progress as far as success from the pen tests, getting good findings, stuff like that. And they're, we're in the plans to do this approved third-party vendor thing, and my name's getting out there and people starting to talk to me more and get my reputation. So I will have the latitude to destroy vendors that come back with trash product, right? That's my whole goal. If you want to work with my company, we're going to pay you a lot of money. Therefore, you are not going to bring me trash.
Yeah, and you're going to schedule it, and also you should just see if you can do Q1 through Q3 and avoid the Q4 bit there. Yeah. To look out for that. So you could be when you're dry slump. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, the next couple of months are prime time, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm working on writing up those requirements. What does that look like? You have to, if you want to be, I'm going to have the list of mobile applications, networks, and IoT, right? So if you want to be on the mobile pen testing list for approved vendors, you have to have this capability, at least on paper, who knows, right? But, you have to have the mobile capability, and you need to send me a sample report and, be able to pass a background check. So I have to write that up in a document that'll make it through legal. I have no idea what that process is going to be like.
Coming in 2020. I mean, it's a big company, and that's kind of what you expect, right? I don't know. Jeremy Long worked for Wells Fargo, right? And then that Wells Fargo team, that's very much what they do, right? They have their approved vendor list as far as contractors go that they will accept penetration test reports from. And it's pretty extensive. To get on that list is not an easy thing, because at some point they were like, yeah, this is crap, right? Somebody at Wells Fargo did this. And it's brilliant because it did limit the number of consultancies that were on the list, but it also, I'm sure it improved their lives immensely.
Yeah.
Having to actually review those results and get them to developers and actually fix stuff. I can only imagine that it did. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like a procurement paved road too. It's easy to invoice. It's easy to all the legal stuff's already worked out.
Yeah.
Yep. And that way the dev teams can just, send me the signal like, hey, we're gonna call up whoever next week. Can you get them scheduled, and we'll have somebody ready to go. As opposed to what they're doing now.
Yeah. Well, and I know, they even pushed it on their like third-party vendors, right? Mm-hmm. So if you were being audited by Wells Fargo, right, you provided some sort of a financial service to them, they would only accept penetration test reports from one of their approved vendors. Like, it went to that level.
I think B of A does that too.
Mm-hmm. They just didn't trust anybody else. They're just like,
yeah,
look, we can come in and do it for you. Like, we'll scan your code with our instance of Fortify, but if you don't trust us, look, here's 5 or 6 people that we do trust and we know that do good work.
I've been burned before, man.
Yeah.
We all have.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some good example reports out there of what not to do.
Yeah.
You're just not legally allowed to share any of them.
You need the real one.
Yeah, I think that, honestly, I think going back to that was one of the, because you had mentioned if you're trying to do a test and you're like, I don't know, you want to run an app or install an app and whatever, like you're running some technical difficulties. I like the fact that our Slack was such that everybody was like super talkative and helpful. And it was definitely like, I don't know how you felt, but I felt like it was totally okay to just ask questions and not feel like people were sitting there being like, oh, this guy's an idiot or something like that, or this person's an idiot. Yeah.
I'm trying to push that both in my team and between teams as well to, like, look, if you got questions, everybody has questions. So just ask it and let's all talk about it, and figure stuff out. It makes us all better. I'm trying to get more communication going between the different teams. Like, hey, you guys in the SCA team need help making up a POC? Fine, come to me. And then when I need help finding something in code, I'm going to come to you.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, you guys are big enough that you separate out those functions. I know, Ken, on your team as well there, at least you've got like product security versus application security, right? You start to silo out as you get bigger, and that's where it becomes tough. Like, even amongst the security folks, making sure everything's going on. Like, I've got a couple bigger clients that I work with, and that's definitely the case, right? It's hard to even know who's working on like cloud security and can talk to me about cloud security architecture because you're so insulated from what they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, you have to have leadership that really pushes collaboration. I know our SCA team works really hard getting all that stuff in the CI/CD pipeline so that everybody who's doing current development is getting scanned nightly or whatever they do. I don't know, but and then they push it off to us. But there hasn't been a lot of collaboration historically between the teams.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, having people like you on staff's obviously going to help, right? So
yeah,
maybe if you don't shit post too much. Right?
Yeah, I felt like there was like that moment of like, it should be totally, yes. Yeah, no, it would be better because I'm here. It would be better. Right.
It'll definitely be better.
Yes. No. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. You definitely got I mean, you can take what you learned in consulting and bring it and then apply it there, but there's just things that doing that, the challenges you're facing, I would be interested to hear, sort of like, what are there things that you thought as a consultant were important that, when you get to working on the somewhat defense side, surprises you that on the other end, you're not so concerned about it?
I think one of the things that probably is the most important, and I think pen testers everywhere can take this to heart, is when you're on the defensive side, you've got people coming at you from every angle. So you just want to make your app and get it out into production. And you've got security people coming at you from multiple places, like, oh, your server's not patched. Oh, your code has bugs. Oh, we did the pen test. And you've got these reports, and you don't know which ones are the most important, which ones are duplicates. And as a security person, you have to be able to look at it and on paper very clearly say, look, this is going to cause this problem, and make it realistic. That secure flag missing on the cookie is not the end of the world, right? You must be very explicit so that they can make decisions on how to prioritize their development and keep the wheels of the machine turning. Because when everybody has to stop and have 3 meetings a day and talking about the red squares on the spreadsheet, everything grinds to a halt.
Yeah. I mean, it's sounds familiar. Definitely sounds familiar.
And like you were talking about in the very beginning of this, having those relationships with the developers where you can just, we're big, so I can just Skype them, or if they're in the same office, I can just walk over and kneel by their desk and be like, look, dude, I'm trying to help. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Just bang on the keyboard for a minute, put in my string, and do whatever.
Because I think we've talked about it on this podcast before, reproduction steps, making those as exact as possible. And easy to follow and simple.
And would make sure you use tools that they're going to have. Like, don't throw burp in your repro steps. Use the Chrome developer tools.
Yeah.
You say that, but I can't tell you the number of times I've opened up a report and seen like the reproduction steps. Step 1, open burp, right? I'm like, the developers don't have access to that, right?
Step 1, open IDA Pro.
Step 2, pick up a couple books.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long...
Spend the next 6 months becoming an RE expert.
Yeah.
Step 3, own the application. You are vulnerable. No, you said something else. I was going to comment on it, but I don't remember now. So sorry.
We're talking about reproduction steps and those being invaluable for
No. What you were saying as far as like actually engaging with the developers, I think as a consultant, I'm one step away from that. But on some of the, the bigger contracts that I have where I'm dealing with the developers, we always talk about it in code review, how, hey, guess what? A 5-10 minute conversation with a developer is going to help you immensely just understand the application, how it's laid out, and everything like that. And I think the flip side is true as well, right? You spend 5 or 10 minutes with them when you find something, just explaining, hey man, what's going on here? Because it looks like I can do this, and give them a heads up. That kind of rapport and relationship building is going to pay off in spades.
Yeah.
Down the road.
I really like avoiding those conversations where, they're like, oh, well, we don't think this is a high because whatever reason, I don't want to get to that point. I want to stop it before then so I can find out what is the real risk and severity of this. And, how do we repro? How do we remediate? Stop all that before you have to schedule another freaking meeting.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Informal meetings, informal Slack, as opposed to the formal readout call with their manager sitting in the room where you just dropped a critical vulnerability on there. Yeah, of course they're going to pick this off, right?
The manager and audit and everybody else.
Yeah. But on the other hand, but on the other hand, if you drop it, if you give it to them first and then you're in the meeting with them and you're like, hey, we found this, but guess what? Kudos to this team because we notified them. They've already got it fixed. That's a much different conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would add to that. I've always liked when companies would give us access to their Slack for just like one channel.
Yeah.
And it was so that we could ask their devs questions and bring up like, hey, I've got something you probably want to know about. What's the best way to send this over, prior to the final?
Get those out quick.
Because it's also easy when you go to write those exec sums, like for you who probably has external facing reports, you want to be able to say in the exec sum, like, we got this stuff fixed. You're right. Like that's the bottom line, is that sentence of everything has been mitigated. That is, either everything was mitigated or everything under a certain severity level.
Yeah. Yeah, except that we use Archer for reports. So I would like to just, for the record, clearly state, RSA, get your shit together. Come on.
Oh, that's amazing. That's what I like about this podcast. Everyone just tells it as it is. You know?
Before Invisium, I worked for Department of Veterans Affairs doing essentially the same thing, except it was just one gigantic application with like 5 development teams made up of like each one. The smallest one had like 3 Scrum teams, and the biggest one had like 20 teams. Right, so a couple hundred developers working on one application, gigantic. And it was very similar, where I could just walk over and talk to people, and really make a positive impact. And you see, being on the side where you're a little bit closer to the developers, you can actually see like the light come on in their eyes when you show them proofs of concept on whatever type of exploit. And it takes it from being just this stupid thing, the XSS 1 box, to something that just happened in front of them. And people, it really starts to click for people. And then, you've talked about it on this podcast before. You build those, I don't know what the word is. You find those people who really want to be into security champions. That's it. You find those security champions, and it makes all the difference.
Sorry, I got distracted. Yes, what you said, that's not an appropriate way for me to have responded to what you said. But there's a reason. And and if you're in the Slack, you guys are seeing the reason. So,
oh man,
it's too late now. It's on the recording. You have to change it.
Your Wi-Fi password's in the background. Oh, that's amazing. Is it Dolphin 1?
Can you see it?
Nah, I can't see it, but no, that's funny.
I'm not going to pick it up.
You're not going to change it. If anybody joins, it's fine, right?
That's hilarious. Oh man.
No, I like what you're saying, Dave. Though is it makes sense, right? Is that like actually having those security people or the quasi security developers? Like I've seen, that was one of the things that Leaf segment was talking about at AppSec Cali, is how do you go about fostering that relationship and building it so that you can identify those people. And then he was also talking about, like, that's where Dave Scribonia came from over there, is he like had been sucked over from being a developer to the security team, right?
Yep.
It's more security engineers. It's not, hey, I'm a product security person and I only do application security stuff. It's like, hey, you're building security tools for us.
Yeah. Right? I learned this from you people. I just talked with my boss about that, because we're looking for a senior pen tester right now. And coming up this quarter, I think we're going to look for 2 juniors. And I said, we need to look for a developer that's interested in security, because we have our tools that we want to develop, and we do application security pen testing. Like, the developers that like security can slip into it much easier than the person who, has messed with Cali a couple times on CTFs.
Yeah. No, that's, I don't know. I like, the longer that I stay in the industry, or like the more I do application security, the more I see the pathway is coming through development, right? Those are definitely the guys that you want. Number one, to build your tooling, right? You've got to have real developers to do that.
Yeah.
And number two, they just understand where the flaws are.
I hope he doesn't watch this.
Application.
I hope he doesn't watch this, but I talked to one of my team members who was supposed to help us do our custom development project, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's do Go, and like, what kind of JavaScript front end should we do? And he's like, well, I think we should use Spring. I was like,
boo. Yeah, no,
not happening.
What if they had said Rails?
I mean, there's plenty of other companies out there they could work for.
There's at least one. There's ones of us. That's awesome.
Sweet.
Well, we should probably start wrapping it up, Seth. I hate to do it, but it's late, and
man, Dave, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man, it's always a blast.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's always great having you on and catching up, right? Let us know how things are going. So
let people know we need a senior pen tester in Charlotte.
Okay. If they have development experience, that's even, even better, right? That's what you're saying. Cool. Yeah, we'll spread the word for sure. Hey, so anything that you're going to in the near future where people could meet up with you or ask questions?
I try to get to all the B-sides around the, Charlotte and Charleston area. Greenville's coming up. I'm going to try to do Infiltrate, but that's a little bit more expensive. I'll do DerbyCon again for this final year. I might submit to that one again. That was pretty fun. I've got to find a new DerbyCon, right? That was my one that I did every year. So
yeah, I mean, I'd almost say like DEF CON's not the same anymore, right? It doesn't have that same. Well, to be fair, I've never been to DerbyCon, so I couldn't tell you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year was 2,000 people or 2,500, 3,000. Anyway, a tenth of the size of DEF CON.
Yeah. I mean, there's other conferences that are out there. Maybe you should come out to like Cactus Con. You should have done AppSec Cali. That's
right, because I got accepted to Cactus Con this year, and that was the same day as Belfast.
That's right.
So that was not a tough decision.
We see where your interests lie. That's fine.
Yeah, it's the whiskey, man. Arizona's not known for their whiskey.
Yeah.
But I have been doing a lot of research and messing around with Frida still, so I'm consistently trying to improve my Frida game, doing the mobile hacking. And so I'll probably continue down that road. I've had a couple of people ask me to put together a mobile hacking course to do with these conferences, like 1 or 2 days, but that is so much work, and I'm lazy.
Well, maybe you should talk to like Kevin Cody and make him help you. And yeah. I mean that's part of the reason Ken and I are doing the secure code review together is because I was too lazy to build it on my own. He'd be great. He's my go-to guy for help anyway. Every time I have problems, he helps me out. So no, that'd be good because that's one of those that I'd be interested in taking like personally, right? I do some stuff with Frida and with like what is it, Rio? I can't remember what some of those other things, but it's. Like it always need to get better with it when it comes to mobile app testing, right? There's always
it's so fast. The flux in it, it's just constantly changing.
Yeah. So maybe we'll have another podcast and we'll talk about Frida
and
mobile testing and how you're going about that because that's always a good topic. Or maybe we'll have you and Dave on or you and Kevin on together, which would be interesting too. So
yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. Thanks, guys. It's always fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else that we need to bring up?
Nope, not at all. But next week we've got Sean Porras, the AppSec manager. Actually, more than that, but works for Oath, the AOL Yahoo.
It's now Verizon Media.
Verizon Media. Oh, sorry, Verizon Media now. I can't keep up.
Yeah.
So that should be a fun one. But yeah, I don't think we have anything else to chat about.
Okay. All right. Well, hit us up on Slack or on Twitter if you got any questions. You can find Coursey on Twitter at DA Coursey, right?
Yep.
Or find him in the common Slack channels that we have. And we'll post this shortly. But thanks everybody for joining tonight.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.